Personally, I do not like to focus on bears, especially not on this map. I probably would have even split those two lures to get a bear and a dryad with the upgrades on them. Basically, to get a heal off on one of my heroes so that I'm a bit set up for later game, and then that dispel so I can at least abolish 2 skeletons or so. It to me, in my experience, is a little bit better set up to work it that way, but it's not necessarily wrong to go into getting these 2 bears like he did. But one thing to bear in mind when I say that is that this is a map where you don't want to mass bears. Some people even say that this is the only map that you don't go hunts on. That's not necessarily true. You could do a pot-em mass strategy, but at the end game of that, you've only got about 4 to 6 hunts on your front line. If you've got more than that, they're just going to jam up and they're not going to do damage to your opponent's army. It's wasted food. And that's why Undead can be so powerful on this map, is if they get 1 or 2 A-bombs in front, especially with strong heroes, it's very, very difficult for the elf player to move in and attack him. Now, one thing I want you to look at is that the elf player is building an expo right now. So Q-Factor is throwing down an expo over near his gold mine. When he actually started this expo, and I forgot to mention it to you, it was literally as he finished creeping there. And I didn't agree with that decision, because the elf player at that moment is then teching, building his tier 2 buildings and building an expo simultaneously with 2 archers, a panda, and a demon hunter. Effectively, the undead player is literally just like a little bit of healing on one of his heroes away from going in and just destroying the elf player. Instead, what the undead player chooses to do, though, is he keeps abusing the map control that he realizes that he has. And he's creeping far more effectively, in my opinion, than the elf player, right? He's running around and he's picking up these major, they can be major healing pots, major mana potions, some other random item, and a major invuln, or a full invuln, as I typically refer to them, excuse me. Now, he doesn't have any right now that we can see, but... Or wait, yes, correct. He doesn't have any right now, but the effect is, since the elf player is only able to creep one of these 4 major positions, it keeps the elf player from getting these really, really critical potions that make this matchup a lot easier. If the elf player can major invuln pot and then use a full healing potion on himself, it's a lot harder for the undead player to nuke down heroes that he needs to be able to nuke down. And whenever he can't nuke out a hero and force it out of the fight quickly, that's more Breath of Fires that a panda's going to get off, that's more mana burns, it's a lot harder for him. Now, if you see here, again, in my last audio commentary, I talked about DPS occurring in waves. The undead player, look, Coil, Nova, Demon Hunter has to move back. And actually, the first unit that died was a bear to heavy focus fire from hero nukes and then damage from the fiends. That's how this strategy works. And this bear right here should die. It makes me cry that this bear doesn't get killed, because he put all the focus fire that he needed to on it to take it out, but he's not going to get it. So the bear runs away, but here again, the undead player has shown up, now that he's got his 3rd hero, and he's effectively pushing the night elf player. Typically, this push happens on the elf player's base, and the intent of it is to pretty much win the game. If they don't quite win the game, they want to kill a hero, they want to break something crucial on the elf player. What's interesting to think about, though, is that Q-Factor, by fast-teching to his bears, instead of getting some dryads like some players do, like I do, the effect is that whenever Destroy You showed up, he showed up to already Master Form bears. That is one reason why you can consider fast-teching in this case, is to already have the Master Form bears whenever the undead player shows up. However, keep in mind, if you do the Dryad's technique, and if you use your base effectively, and you use your heals really well, it won't really matter that you don't quite have Master Form until partially into the fight. But it's important to not lose bears. Like this bear over here on the left that got killed, it took a ton of damage before it changed forms. Look at this next bear. Another bear has gone down. That's 2 bears down to focus fire from units and hero abilities, and they just make units explode. Now, if we watch here, what's happening is both players are adjusting for positioning as the fight goes on. Panda moves back, Death Knight moves back, but they're still trying to fight with their units. But here we go. Fiends are getting low on every single one of them. This is where these bears become a stronger army. And I feel like the undead player, if he had a teleport, and as you can see he doesn't, could have gotten out of this fight a little bit sooner and saved himself. And that's a poor play decision on his part. And see, now he loses his Death Knight. He's going to buy him back, which I agree with in this case, because he has to worry about this Demon Hunter running into his base or getting pushed. But as you're going to see here, no pushing is going to go on. If I remember correctly, this Lich is going to make it out alive, but it's pretty clutch. The Lich barely makes it, and he risks his Naga slightly, except the Naga has this Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. Let's see here. Now, there was one time earlier, you may have caught it, or this may be it. Okay, so the Elf player has map control, at least partially right now, because the Undead player can't really push him. So if we look here, the Demon Hunter runs up to the Goblin shop, and he buys an Invuln Potion. This is just smart play. Whenever you get map control like that, take advantage of those shops. And remember, whenever you're buying an item like that, your opponent isn't getting it. And that's a very important thing to remember. No, excuse me. So, here we go. The Panda's now at level 3. This is good for the elf, but at the same time, he just lost a lot of units, and he's put in a lot of work to holding up this expo. If you look at it, he really is yet to get any gold out of it, and he's having to repair the damn thing. Which means that he spent initially 650 gold, if I'm correct. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong and I won't listen, but he spent about 650 gold getting this entire expo set up, and he's barely gotten any gold out of it, while the Undead player's running around and killing units. I personally feel like if he had waited to expo until tier 3, and maybe train up a few more units, he probably could have had a much more solid army whenever the Undead players showed up, and not lost near as many units as he did, and not risk the game going as poorly as it could have. And you're going to see here a few situations where him having the food advantage would really pull through for him and make a huge difference for a game-breaking win. But the Undead player here, now that he's got his statues with him, is starting to heal up, and he got to where he had enough health that he knew he could go and adventure out and go for a red creep pretty safely. And the other part of this is that Undead players, or Undead bases, are slightly imbalanced, at least in my opinion. Because if you think about this, as an elf player, you might have to pay attention to where your opponent is if you're going to go creep a red without an invuln, or without a teleport. But the Undead player doesn't really care. And if you see here, the Undead player sees that the elf is attacking him, and lets the elf continue attacking him while he gets the creeps killed over here. Now he runs up and he buys the teleport, but he's going to pick up this item, and this is a huge item for him. And he's also going to pick up this healing rune, which I agree with. That's a really good call to get this kill, use the healing rune, get units fixed up, and then head out of there. And he actually starts to teleport now. Oh, excuse me, I was wrong. Now he starts it, and he runs a hero over and activates the rune to heal. So the elf player doesn't want to fight in the Undead's base. This is usually a pretty good call. It's a bit dangerous to do that unless you've got a pretty solid advantage, so the elf player leaves. Now what's happening in the game right now is the Undead player has got a standard setup of fiends. He's got all these statues running around, keeping his army healed up. And his hero levels are getting ridiculous, right? By creeping over there instead of running home, like some players might have, he's now at 4-3-3 in his heroes. And this is pretty critical, and you're going to see why. And you're also going to see here in a moment how these different items make a difference. How the Undead player denying items and also picking up items that he needs is going to work out for him. So, here we go. Fight goes on. Heavy damage goes on to both the ghouls at the front line and also the Demon Hunter. So the Demon Hunter has to reposition slightly and activate an invul, but at the same time all these ghouls die. This is what happens a lot of times to the initial damage. Now Panda here takes nukes, he gets staffed out right before he probably would have died. So Panda is now not doing Breath of Fires. Focus Fire goes down on a Bear, Bear dies. Focus Fire goes down on Demon Hunter is forced to retreat back and now has to teleport to keep from dying. So again, this damage that really matters, this crucial damage, just happens very, very suddenly. It very, very suddenly